Up, a personal branding and social selling and LinkedIn marketing agency. And today I'm chatting with Gunnar Habitz, a senior partner manager at ActiveCampaign with over 20 years of experience in the tech industry. And he's a social selling expert as well. This is how we met each other, an influencer and a consultant. And actually, the fascinating fact about Gunnar is that he's an author of 25 books and a strategic networker and a passionate advocate of modern workplace transformation. Yeah, I will mute you for a little bit. Sorry. Um, and he has actually a strong personal brand, and he built it via like effective networking and using some social selling techniques we'll talk about today. And we'll cover Gunnar's background, his approach to networking, tips for building and maintaining relationships, which is very important, the impact of publishing books on his personal brand, because it's really interesting, and how he leverages platforms like LinkedIn and maybe some other platforms to grow his audiences and professional presence. So we'll meet Gunnar. How are you doing? Hi.
Hi, Olga. Thank you so much for inviting me to your show. Really happy to be here. And also it's great because you have been part of my recent book launch as well. So thank you, and great to return the favor.
Thank you. So I'm just looking forward to dive deeper into your experience. Could you please just share with us a little bit more about your career? Because you worked like in many countries from around the world, so it's just so great. Yeah, tell us more, please.
Yeah, happy to do so. I grew up actually in northern Germany. I studied computer science over there. And there was a time when those people who are deep into computing would be rather shy introverts, like myself, who would never really talk too much, outspoken somewhere. But that changed a little bit also during my university time, because I also thought, how can I earn the living as a student? And it became a tour guide to bring tourists from Hamburg to London, to Amsterdam, to Venice, to Rome, and to Prague. And that was the time when I started to really figure out that the world is so much larger than out there, and that is obviously also helpful because I had the chance to speak in front of audience, always new people, to tell them something that helped on personal branding in that sense, but particular, it also helped on the way how I could convey a message. From there, then I moved to Switzerland in the end of the 90s, just before the year 2000 problem, as my first real work in my career, to work at HP, where I stayed for 16 years. It was great to have 5 completely different roles alongside that journey, from consulting to product marketing. Today, I would even say analog marketing, because it was not too much digital yet in earlier days, but many principles were quite similar. I moved to business development to sales, and I've been leading a sales team of 32 sales reps in 29 countries. So that
Wow.
was quite a large one. And I even still believe that there was a day where you and I could have met in your former roles at Microsoft and me at HP at larger events.
Yeah,
But from
maybe.
there, HP split into 2 pieces, into 2 their own companies, and then my role was always somewhere in the middle, so it didn't exist anymore. And out of a layoff, then my wife and I thought it's time to explore something else. And as we like the lifestyle down under, we had the intent to move to New Zealand. Traveling there for 3 months, with 1 week of Sydney, I recognized that Sydney is actually the capital of software as a service. I'm the only one who says that, because there's no real quantitative proof, but all great modern tech companies are here in Sydney. Less in Melbourne, there's more telco, not in Auckland, not in Wellington, not even in Singapore. So therefore, that is a hub here for Asia Pacific. I'm grateful that I then started to work here, first as a partner of HP. That's quite fun, after getting out of HP, to become a partner, because there's something called loyalty. You never burn bridges. It was great to see the whole ecosystem from the other side. Then I started to build what is my real passion in the IT side, to build a partnership, a channel strategy for a risk management provider from Sydney in the SaaS space called Noggin. And from there, being active on social media and LinkedIn in particular, Hootsuite found me. I created online courses and have been blogging for about 300 weeks in the meantime about it. And there I went for 3 years leading the partnership in Asia Pacific. And now for 2 months, I'm at ActiveCampaign.
Wow, congratulations on the recent career change. How do you find Sydney after living in Europe and your career in Europe? Is it different?
It surely is different. And what many people think about when they know me a bit from my European times, where I would be the one who would guide through historical cities like Prague and love to go around historic hotels. So then people thought, hey, hang on, is Australia not rather a new country? But actually, not really. So then you have so many older places here that have been created still from late 1800s. While in cities like Vienna, you also have houses from 1800s, except the churches. So you always find something. But what amazes me in Sydney for sure is the harbour and the Opera House. And I'm very grateful that I can see the harbour bridge from my window over here. And that is what really makes Sydney. And there's one interesting thing. If you live in a city in the middle of it or very far away, you rarely have the chance to really see the city as a whole. But
Mhm.
from your point of view in Texas, when I grew up, there was a television series called Dallas. And when they drove from the South Fork Ranch to the city, you can see the whole Dallas in one go. Like where in Europe can you see a whole mountain? It's just one mountain. It's hard to see. In Slovakia, you can. But the same thing is here in Sydney. So you can see the whole Sydney that I can watch from here. And I'm very close and still completely different. And Sydney is it's a collection of villages. Every suburb is different and very vibrant culture. A lot of startups, like maybe in the US, I would see equivalent maybe in San Francisco. And that's really great.
Wow, that's amazing. And I remember how you showed me some really beautiful places on the call, like a video call. Yeah, it was amazing. Thank you for that. Yeah, I still remember it. I want to visit. We before we talked, and I've read it on your website and on your LinkedIn profile that you went through some career change and even layoffs. We talked about layoffs with you. Uh, Actually, how did these events happening in your life, how did they shape your approach to personal branding and networking? Yeah, could you please share?
Yeah, particularly these layoffs. So I had them 3 times. You mentioned from HP, which I also described in my book, Social Selling for Job Seekers, around 12 pages, a whole story, how that started in me, the questioning, should I do the same of the same? Or maybe it's a way to really reconsider life. And that was the one that we have done 8 years ago. But how to make it happen, even to go so far away and utilize this? I'm grateful after 16 years, there was a chance to have 3 months of a garden leave back then to rather think and explore. And then I came here to study again, to study at the Australian Institute of Management. And I recognize there's people from all walks of life, from different type of companies. Well, in the past, when you work in a big organization like HP, you think the world only is HP and Dell and Lenovo and Microsoft and
Yeah.
Oracle and all of these big tech companies. In reality, is completely different. So that was a lot of learning on aha moment. And I also learned one thing, that the culture here in Australia, also in other parts of the world, but not everywhere. The culture here is based on the fact that we would like to learn about someone else. So if you and I would stand at a networking event in Sydney and we speak about whatever, and the third person comes, we automatically open and ask, hey, who are you? What brings you here? Because
Wow.
we all want to know what everyone brings to the table. And that is a nice attitude on networking. And that is particularly helpful when you think about a layoff happened. Of course, you can click on apply to the next job. But actually, when this happened after Hootsuite had a similar type of event in August 22, within 5 weeks, I restarted at GoTo, which used to be called Log Me In. And many know GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar. I didn't even apply. But that was a social selling approach because of being known in the market, of having content that makes sense, and the key thing here, having attended a career event at Log Me In beforehand and kept in contact. So the thing here, from a layoff point of view, then the layoff happens suddenly. You cannot plan this. Nobody can. The company neither. So
Yeah.
then you need to ensure that you have already built a network, that you have already something available, so that then when
Mhm.
the market at least has some demand, not only too many people who are looking for, then at least it is kind of a shortcut.
Yeah, it makes sense to prepare and do some strategic like movements, strategic work to build your personal brand and network. Actually, your thought about when you just left HP and you felt that this whole world exists outside of HP, it really resonates with me because I felt the same when I went to maternity leave at Microsoft and decided to try to start my own business. And I realized, wow, other other businesses exist, other companies, other people outside Microsoft. Yeah, and it was fascinating, and they're so different sometimes. Yeah, and it's really interesting. So yeah, it resonates with me. So about networking, actually, I admire your networking skills because I can. You always maintain relationships on a long distance, and you meet new people. On the other hand, and actually, I have a question about it. How do you do it? How do you make your your networking skills, your networking activities a part of your personal brand?
Yeah, there's a couple of thoughts to this one. So first of all, I somehow grew up in a way that I'm always in a peripheral type of location, not in the center of things. So when I was born in Bremen, it was 30 kilometers away, and even 40 when I had to go to Mercedes-Benz, where I've done internship. So always have been a little bit far away. That means I need to do a bit of a more of an effort to be visible. Like if you think it from the market of Australia and New Zealand together, New Zealand is next to it. If you see it from Australian point of view, we are next to the rest of the world. So it's always you feel you need to do a little bit more compared to you are in London, you are in LA or maybe in New York, which is known as the center of places. So therefore, it's always this way of doing a bigger effort that would be required. Same when I've been in Switzerland and there's this big Germany over there, then you have the feeling this little bit more, showing up more. But what I recognize, particularly from the time when I've been more the introvert, I
Mhm.
like to more learn about how something works, learn about how the movements are. So I sometimes go to a networking event a bit early. I try to read the room, I prepare who will be there, who can I count could be there. Um, Try to have something ready, not just that I can repeat 300 times the pitch, because it's not about pitching. Networking is not necessarily about to promoting your own stuff. It's not a speed networking like speed dating. It's not about that, but rather I try to then find out when that event happens, who can I invite, who would also benefit from attending. That would be good because then at least there's one or two people are there that I already know. But I take it more from a strategic point of view. And I figured out that in most events that I attended, from a small 20 people meetup up to larger conferences, there's always between 1 and 5 for sure that I can build a stronger relationship with. And that can be helpful in the long run. So
Yeah.
don't expect something quickly to say, can I sign something for you? But then also something very funny happened. So I went to an industry event here from Business New South Wales 2 weeks ago, and I had a name tag there where was written ActiveCampaign. And one person of my network who I met 7 years ago, and the last time maybe 4 years ago, and we had meetings of potential collaboration, looked at me, hey Gunnar, good to see you again. Ah, yes, you're now at ActiveCampaign. I read on LinkedIn. I think now we should talk. Now it resonates very well because we would like to have a collaboration. And then it realized that on one side where we have an ActiveCampaign, for those who don't know, that is marketing automation, the best deliverability on the planet, but also a CRM system all in one go. And that's what they've been looking for.
Mhm.
How would I know this when I look on LinkedIn and type in, because nobody on LinkedIn shares, I'm looking for this. There are people who say I'm selling that, but nobody says that are my pain points. So therefore, you need to build this trust over time. And that trust comes also, for me, what's helpful, to go to networking events where I sometimes have to speak on behalf of someone else. So that also
Mhm.
helps to get more into the mindset of others.
You mean you connect people to each other? Right?
Yes, and you might remember from the days when I've been at HP, you've been at Microsoft, there was a famous brand for phones, which is Nokia. And Nokia had one nice slogan, and that works well for me, connecting people.
Yeah, I like that. So that's amazing. And actually, me personally, I have some difficulties with maintaining long distance relationships because we are always busy, and it's difficult to find time to maintain relationships. And how do you do it? Do you have any tips for it, or it's just natural talent that you can maintain this kind of relationships?
Let's say I would dream about having a perfect tool that can help me, because if you look in social media, what can it do? On I think it's Facebook or Instagram, you can declare who are close friends compared to the rest. LinkedIn, you cannot really do this. And do you really would like to only say, these are my close people and these are everyone else? Maybe not. So what I'm doing to figure out and keep in touch with certain people, I simply have bookmarks in my browser to say something like people in this type of industry, that type of function, that occasionally I would like to check about their content so that I can know I have them, maybe 10 or 12 of them. Occasionally I go through when notifications are not there to figure out what happens with them. But then what I also can do, and maybe it's part of the brain, that I can connect dots together when I think about this person I met at an event, and they're also that might be relevant for another one. This comes into my mind maybe because of thinking, how can I put one-on-one together? Because one-on-one is greater than two, actually, when you think from a partnering point of view. But that is also because I work as a partner manager. So the mindset is not I sell directly, but I always go via the middlewoman, middleman, whatever you call it. So therefore, that's the mindset of it needs more than just one to solve a problem. It needs first someone who can understand that there's a problem that is worth solving, that there are solutions, and so on. So therefore, a real solution to something consists of more than one. And therefore, my mindset is how can I connect dots together?
And actually, how do you mentioned that you usually like have uh, some maybe bookmarks of like 10 or 12 people, and you're following them and checking their profiles. How do you choose these people? What kind of people do you like follow and track their?
That yeah, good point. That depends, of course, on various things. And in all theory, I can create LinkedIn groups, I can create LinkedIn chat groups, or something like this. But it really depends also what is all about. So because many people are also connected, so then I have maybe one about small business networking from Sydney. So that's one type of group where I occasionally check. Not that they are a group by themselves, but I declare that these are my go-to people for certain topics. And also they know me, of course. And then in the tech industry is completely different again. So I have a range of those type of people. And that of course is something what works very well. And for me, it starts from the practical point of view. Of course, I can also put them in a CRM and all of this one, but I don't. I mean, we talk about humans. We don't talk about deals.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's more about the interest. How can I find out what they are writing? And what helps me is LinkedIn, also the other channels as well. When I see that somebody is always writing about something which is relevant to me, and the more often I comment on it or like it, the more
Mhm.
likely then the algorithm shows me more of them, that I do not necessarily forget them. And I work LinkedIn mostly on the notifications and then on the feed, because notification is my work. The feed is in the meantime more what LinkedIn's AI want me to believe that is relevant to me, which actually is less and less. But
Mhm.
but the main mindset comes from, and that is the formula for my next book or next year's book. When I always said, as a partner manager, I put the glue in between. But then recently I've been thinking about what that actually means. And I wanted to look for an acronym for the next book, which is
Mhm.
called Celebrate Your Network, The Power of Human Connections. Doesn't exist yet, but I have the cover. And there I thought about what is it, which words would be there. And I came on four, exactly what I'm doing. And that fits into what we talked about. In networking,
Uh-huh.
I give. I don't take, I give.
Yeah,
And then I
makes
listen.
sense.
And
Mhm.
listen means longer than, of course, speaking. The bad thing, if you have two listeners talking to each other, then it's basically silence. Then the third one is unite. So I bring more together. And that all together, if you put it there, that is enhancing the outcome for everyone. And these four words make it into glue.
Wow. Yeah, so that sounds amazing. Yeah, and I think it will be a very good name for the book. Yeah, and when are you planning to publish it? You
End
don't
of
know
this
yet.
year, early next year, don't know.
Okay, okay, yeah, looking forward
Typically, from
to
book writing point of view, as soon as I put a launch date on, then
it.
the inner machinery runs and I can write it. But if there is no launch date, it can come whenever.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So this is great that you will systemize your like networking approach. That's it's just amazing. And actually, I have another question about it because usually people would like to keep in touch with each other, but it's a little bit awkward. They don't know how to find reasons to connect again after several months. And you, it's just you talked, you stopped, and how to start again. And you mentioned that you just follow their content and comment on it and interact with it, and this is how you like reconnect with them. Is it correct, or maybe you do something else?
There's maybe two ways. You can have a trigger or you can have an impulse. So the trigger is that something happened. Think about birthdays. And LinkedIn actually now changed the way when you go into people, you can see there's a new tab of catching up. It's where you have all of the anniversaries and all of this one. My tip is happy to. So number one, I share my birthday, despite from security reasons I should not. People can do something with the data, but so what? When I celebrate a book launch at my birthday, everyone knows it's the 4th of May. But I'm happy to share where it is. When someone else has the birthday there, then it's a good way to interact again, not on the birthday, because they get hundreds of. Up
Yeah,
to 48 hours, the likelihood to then say hello, to check in again and hope you had a nice time or whatever, helps to refresh. And then based on this, when they respond, not otherwise, then you can think about what else they've done. So birthdays is one of those, or whatever can happen. Somebody talked about. I moved far away, so then it's more likely that I try to figure out what goes on in my home country, in Switzerland, than that they care about me here. So the likelihood for me to checking in is bigger when I see something's going on, whatever in media tells about a place where I have a connection with. Then I ask, is it really so bad with the weather? Do you really have so high floods in Germany? We only see pictures in media, and then you can. It's a bit also the caring part of it.
yeah.
The main thing is when you reach out after a while, it should not feel like you want to sell them something.
Yeah, and actually, I like these classic weather questions, right? They work all the time. Yeah, and the caring part is very important. And actually, I usually see the posts in my newsfeed, like your posts, where you highlight some other people. For example, you met someone at a networking event or something else, and why you do it all the time, and how does it help maybe your personal brand and your networking activities?
That's a very good question. I mean, look what we are doing today. You are bringing me and normally other guests as well into your ecosystem. You're talking to me instead of you tell
Yeah,
everything by yourself. So sometimes it's good to have others, to give others a voice, particularly those who normally don't have a large following. So that helps to introduce where I meet them and talk about them. So I started this last year in August, particularly to meet someone for a coffee, and I called it 42 coffees because it was when I started early August and until end of June, which is down under the end of financial year, what in the Northern Hemisphere you might have by 31st of December, I thought it's about 47, 48 weeks to go. I can commit to nearly every week. And 42 is my favorite number, being the answer to the meaning of life, as
yeah,
mentioned and questioned in the book and a movie Hitchhiker's Guide to Galaxy, from this old supercomputer Deep Thought, an early ancestor of ChatGPT. So 42 is something which I like as a number. So I thought I put myself the target to meet 42 interesting people and share about them, not about me, but about them and what are the key takeaways from my network. That sometimes helps those who have a small network. It sometimes helps me to meet with someone who has a large network, a relevant local one. And
hmm,
sometimes it even, that's funny, I got a work opportunity coming from there that was not even expected. Um,
wow,
That was funny as well. But it's good because I try to tap into different type of professions from those. So I have, for example, I met Aaron in this week, who is helping on the mental health for men in with tradies and construction, and we have the mental health week now. So then sometimes it is based on something current, or for example, when I went to Chicago in April, I had the pleasure to meet the CEO Alex Glenn, who runs Partner Hub, which is a great hub for media agencies to work together. And I knew him from LinkedIn for a while, but finally met him face to face. So that way, of course, I tapped into that world. So it's always a give and take in this one. But it's a great way to make that happen. And I do the similar thing when I review books. I have a LinkedIn newsletter called Learn from Books, and I share exactly there about books from others. What can I
Yeah,
learn from
I
them?
like this part as well. Yeah, I've read some of your newsletters about it. Yeah, about some books. That's amazing.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, and actually, how maybe what is the best way to show others in your personal brand? You mentioned that you create posts and newsletters and participate or invite them to speak. Um, are there only ways, or maybe something else? Yeah.
So what helped me is to commit to a series instead of doing something just once. When you use once, it's nice, and then you realize, oh, nobody's there. Nobody
Mhm.
cares about it. I stop it. It takes a while until you are known for a personal brand. And that is something that I learned when I came to Sydney, because back there in Switzerland, it's not maybe that largest market, despite being a fantastic country. I'm happy that I'm part of that. But the circles are smaller, and it's not so open to communicate to others like it's open here. So therefore, I realized that also LinkedIn has a higher adoption rate here compared to German-speaking countries where it's a competing app called Xing, where I'm already for 20 years on that. But it's not at all relevant compared to LinkedIn when it comes to also content, because it's the content that puts it together that you can share about something. And for me as a writer, as a blogger, it's a perfect way to share thoughts, not from a pitching point of view, but rather sharing how something works. And it's great to see that there are also others that I have here at my company, ActiveCampaign, but particularly also before at Hootsuite, who are doing this as well. So you can learn from each other how to share.
Great. And actually, about talking about other people, like sharing some information about others on LinkedIn, I have also a little bit of a story that when I just moved to Texas and I attended a meetup about like AI for SEO or something like that. And I wrote about it. I wrote about this speaker and some highlights, and event organizers, they just found this post and they invited me to speak at the same meetup, and I spoke there as well. And it was just amazing because I was very new to the country, to the state and the city, and no one knew me, and still I've got this invite because I highlighted someone else on my LinkedIn profile. So yeah, this is how it works, one of the ways how it can work.
It truly does. And not to forget that also that you and I are connected. I've been watching your shows about social selling, and then I thought, hang on, I might have also something to share in case it's relevant. And then I had the chance to speak at your event. When was it? In December 22, in front of the large audience of Modem Up. That was really nice. And then you have one page in my book. And to give a similar example to yours, I attended an event from HubSpot maybe 4 years ago, uh, and there was a HubSpot, the former country manager, who invited Graham Hawkins, who wrote a book, The Future of the Sales Profession, who talked about how AI and machine learning will influence the workplace in
Mhm.
2017. So I wrote about, still while those two have been speaking, my post was ready. I posted it, and that post landed me an interview with the country manager of HubSpot. It
Wow.
never came there. Doesn't matter. But it opened up chances. And also those old people that I met and connected with, due to the algorithm, had a higher likelihood to see that post, which then got some 6,000 impressions, which then for me meant quite a bit, and still does. opening a bracket. Many gurus say impressions don't count. The reach is not about that. But when nobody sees content, nobody likes and nobody comments. We need to have the comments. So we need to have that people see it.
Yeah, this is true. Actually, we are moving to another, I think, hot topic about the books you've written, because I know that you've written 25 books, and it's just very impressive. How is it possible?
Thank you.
Actually, yeah, and actually, this is my question. Yeah, how have you done it?
Yeah, and how so many? That's funny. It's I published my first one in June 99, and now we have June 24. So 25 years with 25 books, and the majority of them are published at regular publishers. And that came from the time when I've been a tour guide in the 90s. And many books about destinations like Prague were simply not good or outdated. So I first helped publishers to correct them. And they said, oh, we need to enhance the series. We need to write something new. Can you do this? And then I moved to Switzerland and thought I get a handle on that. And so I think it overall is 20 travel books from three publishers in Germany, two hotel guides. I love that, which helped me to also land a role as a board director in a historic hotel in Sydney for nearly 3 years. So they're happy for this one as well. I wrote one fairy tale, which is a Christmas gift for my wife. Then I finally self-published it. And now I have my two books about LinkedIn. So then here's the fairy tale, for example. It's a very funny story about animals and humans in the same city. And then self-publish, I published this one. Connect and Act is my social selling book, where I might be the only one who says a practical guide to using LinkedIn for your profile pleasure and profit. Nobody talks LinkedIn as pleasure. And then I created a version of it because I spent some time in the career and job seeking market, a version of the other book called Social Selling for Job Seekers, which doesn't talk about CVs and cover letters and interviews, but rather how can you develop a person brand as someone who would like to go to the next step in their career. Doesn't mean they have to change their company, doesn't mean necessarily that, but how can they utilize the power of social selling to get or improve their person brand to be then seen, because social media is all about perception, not about facts. We need to align this in the best way as possible. And that's a good thing. So that was a big pleasure to write them.
Great. And actually, what is your writing process like? Because do you create, for example, an outline and then some content inside it or something else?
So first of all, it's my concept. So I don't use ChatGPT for that. It's rather my thinking. So I typically start with an idea that before even the outline comes, I start with the cover. That's quite fun because when I have the cover, I can place it at the wall. I know what I'm heading towards. A funny example, I had a discussion with Casey Hill from ActiveCampaign, who shares beautiful posts about what works, how to create newsletters, how can software companies grow, highly practical. And we had a discussion about top of the funnel, which you can also talk as tofu. Then I went shopping with my wife and she said, can you get some tofu over here? And then I thought, that sounds good. And at the home, I created a cover in a similar look and feel like this one, which then reads, tofu means marketing, and tofu on that, and serving on the buyer's journey. So one day that can become an idea, and I have plenty of those. And few of those ideas from a book cover then turn into a concept. I actually wanted to write a book called Lay Off to Pay Off that can help those which are in a similar situation. But of course, I'm not a career coach and I don't want to be. And I'm not a recruiter and I'm not hiring. So therefore, didn't want to go through this negative energy. But to give you an example about the timing and everything, to write this book, Connect and Act, Social Selling, which I thought is nothing else than a compilation of my existing blog posts that I do once per week under the hashtag Social Selling Monday. I thought I'd just compile, let's say, the best 50 of them. At the end, it was 42, obviously, and they're longer than just a LinkedIn post. And still, it was 120 hours of work, including a book launch at my birthday. And that became the trigger. I realized early 23 that in order to really make that happen, I need to put myself a deadline. That for me is the magic. If I work something Let's start with the end in mind and then go back. Then I know exactly when which step need to follow and what is the writing speed that I have. Um, that I can come to that. And the writing process
Mhm.
was basically 6 weeks every single day, by average maybe 2 hours.
Wow,
Weekend
great.
longer,
Yeah. Let me take a
work
book
days
from
more.
my shelf. It's just here. Yeah, I just wanted, maybe to show and ask you about this, that in your book you have a lot of quotes from different people, from different experts. Let me maybe show it somewhere. I can find it. Yeah. Yeah, there are actually so many people highlighted in your book.
Yeah. Look,
Yeah,
look,
yeah. So many
look this
different
one, for
experts.
example.
Yeah. Ah, yeah, this
About
one is
this one.
me. Yeah. So, and this is actually interesting because it's also part of networking activities.
Mhm.
And why are you adding people to your book, and how you choose people to actually to invite to contribute?
Yeah, it's good question. So the Connect and Act book has 33 and the other one has 27 of them. Um, on one side, many books have a testimonial section at the beginning where those who, let's say, have been pilot readers, they shared their first impression. Very grateful for this, especially also as there are some voices which are really from the field and know me and what I've been doing over the while. So that is nice. But I also added those who really have full page of wisdom that they share how to work with content, how does it work in practice, highlighting not only yourself on there, but for example, I worked with Aircall. Aircall is a vendor in the telephony space, a software vendor, and I have been helping them 2 years ago with social selling activities. And one of those became, so to say, the superstar who really embraced it, and she shared in practice what it really helped. And actually, it helped her to turn from an inside sales representative to become a partner manager. So there is something to it, and she landed podcast episodes from utilizing social selling. So it was for me the best proof that I know of and where I've even been involved with. And then I've been grateful for the book Connect and Act that I had experts like Mark McInnes, who once had the highest social selling index that I've ever seen on LinkedIn, I think something
Okay.
like 98, 99. So
Uh-huh.
very high and early on. He's one of the best social selling experts in Australia. And the
Mhm.
forward was written from my former coach who got me there, Rahul Kumar from Resonate Business Ignition. So then I had the chance to figure out who did I work with who could add some further practical reference, but also some more the way how that actually helped them to do. And I'm very grateful also for the Social Selling for Job Seekers book that it was Justin Michael who wrote the foreword. And he has his own great books like Sales Superpower. And it was a pleasure even seeing him writing the foreword on the Google Doc that I shared. Not just it's
Mhm.
they dissented, but I observed. He said, "Now I'm ready to do it. Let me write it." That is a nice learning for me. So how do I choose them? Particularly, I wanted to ensure that the book sits on a solid foundation of more than just someone who moved to Australia here. So then I added voices from experts in fields that I've been with for a while, like from Switzerland, but also from the US, from Canada, and in this latest version, Social Selling for Job Seekers, there are voices of experts like Dennis Gielen, who went into layoff, for example, by himself and shared a fictive book about it. And I thought that would be good. He would have something to add for my readers. That's a good example.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And actually, I really like that it's very important to you to give some value to your readers. And first, you actually think about the reader, what will be the most valuable practical content for them. Yeah, and actually, in networking, I've also noticed that you first think about a person you talk to, you communicate with, and whether it will be helpful for them. Could you give something to them? And you don't think a lot about yourself, and these opportunities, they just come to you a little bit later. Yeah, and I think this is a great approach. Just focus less on yourself, yeah, and focus more on other people and help them.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like that. So I
Yeah,
know that many people. Yeah, yeah. You wanted to say something.
no, it fits into the mantra of lifelong learning because I can learn from so many. And then I'll sit and meet someone and say, hang on, maybe I can also connect with this or that person. And then once it's published, then I see also who reacts on it. And then I get an idea of who else would be a great interview partner to be with because they're not all from Sydney. They're not all from a similar or the same type of industry.
Hmm.
And sometimes it could be that someone who I worked with or know, but they're not from here, but then they're on a trip to Sydney. Then, of course, I'm happy to talk to them. And one of them is Craig McAlpine. He is a career coach I met in early 2016 in Auckland, New
Hmm.
Zealand. And then I thought it would be great when I have this job seeker book that I have his expertise on it because he helped me quite a lot. He said back then, it was face-to-face meeting in Auckland. He said, Gunnar, nobody cares really about your overseas experience from Switzerland. We're here in New Zealand. So if you have relevant experience over here, that's what really what people want to have. And I thought, hang on, somebody needs to get me started. And you know this when you moved to the US. So that's not so
Hmm.
easy. So I never forgot him on that one. And I have been engaging with him ever since. And it took about 7 years that we finally met again in person when he came to Sydney. Obviously, that was one of the guests, and he is now the first page when you open the book.
Great. Yeah, it's so true. But I was lucky that I had clients in the US before I moved there, so I knew a
Hmm.
little bit about the market. But still, it's very new, and you need to learn a lot. I still need to learn a lot about it. Yeah, and actually, many people they dream about and or maybe plan to write their own book and publish it, or maybe several books. And what will be your advice to these people? How to do it? How to start?
That is a very good point because I strongly believe everyone has a book in themselves, or maybe two. The only question is, will they ever be have the chance to get that out? And sometimes it needs a trigger. I'm currently helping two professionals in realizing their book. One of them is my mom. And I thought it's great to be a first time published author at the age of 79. Really looking forward to what she is writing.
So nice.
That is about because my dad passed away from Parkinson's, and that was 3 years ago in June 21. And my mom continued to research a lot about it and want to put all of this, the view of those affected as a carer, but also the view what could be better if you research more in advance
Hmm.
to get better, a little bit a better way of working with the disease, and that is something that she wrote. I'm now in the editing phase for that one. It's in German, but yeah, many people have a book in themselves. But the question is, do they find the right usage of the book, or is it just a dream to do it? I mean, how many books are written just to put in the locker and nothing happens from them? Yes,
Hmm.
writing is therapy for them. They can have something from the process of doing, but it would be great to share it. And today it's so easy to say publish. So in my view, they should do it. So then I actually started my own newsletter on Substack, which is more of a blogging platform called Writing
Hmm.
in Cafes, where I talk all about book publishing, book marketing, because I realized after 25, apparently I learned something on the journey that can be quite helpful.
Yeah, and yeah, I hope everyone who really wants to write their book, they will start doing it. Yeah, and they will be successful in it. Uh, and actually, let's talk about LinkedIn profile because we met on LinkedIn, and many people actually meet each other on LinkedIn, and this is the just amazing platform for networking, for lead generation, for career development, and everything related to it. And your profile is impressive. You have over 11,000 followers, and you are posting regularly. Could you share your best tips maybe for growing and engaging your LinkedIn audience and your LinkedIn presence?
Yeah, happy to do. So for me, it's not necessarily about the number, but when I realized I came to Australia 8 years ago with maybe 1,000, so you can guess I'm growing by a bit more than 1,000 a year in terms of followers. It's not about the number, but steady growth helps from the mindset of growing. I don't tell myself I need to invite 10 people per day. I mean, sometimes I invite more, sometimes less. I still carry a backlog of 120 I didn't respond to yet. But because simply I do not want to have everyone in there. There are many people who only are keen to get followers or keen to get connection to then reach out and sell them whatever program management certification type of work, what I'm not in. So I need to validate that I have the right level of people in there, not that you, as a valuable part of my network, get bombarded by someone that I let in. So I need to be a little bit mindful on that one. On the other side, I'm someone who likes to invite people also a bit with intent and if ever possible with a personal connection request. And here's a little trick out of my books. LinkedIn messaging is a total underrated search engine. We all know that Google without SEO wouldn't work. Google doesn't show the best answer to something. That's not the task, but it finds the best link
Yeah.
based on what you put search engine optimization on. So if you only connect with someone, we might forget who it was. And I'm quite good with names. I'm even better with faces, but I'm horrible in the combination. So when I think about, I've been at that event, I see myself there. This was the person, that what they've been wearing. That's what we talked about. But what was the name?
Yeah,
Do not
it
know.
happens. Yeah.
I cannot search for the weather, for the smell, for the feeling. That doesn't work. I can only work for something I planned in advance, and that's what I'm doing. So basically, I'm connecting with, if possible, two hooks. We met at
Mhm.
that event, speaking about that topic, possibly something else, in a way that I can later search for it. Like you need to plant SEO, otherwise Google cannot find the website. You need to plant that initial message. And if someone at an event, I don't have enough of time to really type in front of them, then I might just connect on the fly. But within 24 hours, I should go and say, hey, great that we met at that event. That's what we spoke about. I would be keen to whatever. Yes, of course, I can do this as a template, and I have a library of templates that, but
Mhm.
I'm a fast typer. I can quickly do it on the fly. But then I need to think about, is it a person for an inner circle, or do I want to engage more? Do do they represent a certain group or a sub network that I would like to be part of? And here's one thing: if you like to change a bit to your network, for example, when I worked at risk management
Mhm.
at Google and wanted to add more security and cybersecurity, when nobody knows me about it, it's of course not so easy. So I need to find out who is there around, how can I tap, where are, let's say, influencers or those who represent a larger group or who are in associations like Governance Institute or something like this, that I can tap into this one, but not just to connect only, but I need to connect with value, and that's more the approach that I take. So people say, do we need to have quantity or quality when it comes to building a network? And for me, the question is wrong. So we should, because it's not an either or, we should change one letter. And then we say, we need to have quantity. Yes,
Mhm.
we need to have quantity of quality. So the
Mhm.
right quality of people and more of them. Not too many, but more of them. We
Yeah.
cannot have more than 30,000 connections. We maybe cannot even really think about more than 300 people closely enough.
Hmm. Yeah, but it's still a little bit of like a conversion. You have, for example,
Mhm.
11,000 followers, and only some of them will be interested maybe in your services or interested in inviting you to speak or something else. Yeah, so you need more people to get better results. And I really liked your example about the events, because for us, for example, for our agency, when we use the message about an event, for example, hi, we both attended this event, let's connect, something like that. So it increases connection rate. It can be like 80% or 70%. So after that, comparing to usual, for example, of 30%. So it's
Yeah,
very good.
there's only one downside. So if you follow some gurus who say you do not need to necessarily put a personal connection, a personal message on it, for me, it feels like I take my business card and give it everyone walking the dog on the street. Totally irrelevant, and they would wonder why I'm doing this. But there's something. If you think about the C level of larger organizations, when they get a personal request, they see it on their phone, they're sitting in whatever important meeting, then they might feel, oh, it comes with a request, it comes with a message. I need to first look at them. I need to pay back the favor and write something. I cannot justify the time at the moment. And then it takes ages until they do. While a quick only request, they would accept, not even looking at the profile. So
Yeah.
that acceptance rate can also be tricky if somebody would like to respond properly. But there's also one thing about building these networks that I would like to say as well. When you think you met someone there, you analyze who they are. The fact that you write messages which continue to stay is important because we develop further. So do the people in our network. So I figured out about an event yesterday called Stories That Stir. That's about storytelling. I realized it's from Monica Rosenfeld. I met her. I remember that where even the suburb where we went, where we had the coffee, and realized, oh, that's 5 years ago. And then we chatted about again, and she said, yeah, that's a long time ago. That's when we met there. We still remember, but it needed the messaging to remember us, so then we can really utilize it. So for me, the power of LinkedIn is in the messaging. That's also the convert chapter of my books.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Actually, we have 7 minutes left, but do you have more time to maybe to
Of
dive
course.
with other? Yeah, thank you so much. Actually, how do you monetize your brand? Do you monetize it first?
That that that's a very, very tricky question because I do not want to be perceived as the one who wants to sell something straight away. Particularly working with partnerships, it's not about I pitch directly, but I would like to win and learn from others who have a partnership approach, and that can enable something. Um, I must admit, on the other side, when I faced the layoff with GoTo, that was in June last year, 1 year ago, yeah, and it took me a while until I returned back to Hootsuite, despite I left them with a layoff. So loyalty exists, and that's a good thing. I was grateful to return. In the meantime, it was actually the book that helped me that I could indeed monetize, not by selling more books, but the book, and that's the thing for those who want to write one, is a kind of form of authority level. So then the expertise is visible, and I got consulting capabilities or
Mhm.
work thanks to having the book out there. So in that sense, yes, you can monetize your brand with books. I actually created an online course that talks about personal branding
Mhm.
in 2020, and Hootsuite found that. So I could say, yes, I could monetize by then having that role, that dream role at my dream company back then.
Yeah.
Thanks for having that brand. Yes, it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily come in a straight way, but actually it does work.
And that's amazing that you actually don't need the very, very wide reach. You just need it to be seen by some certain people, some most important people. Yeah. And they actually make decisions to, for example, to invite you to work with them. Yeah. Or to offer something else. Yeah. That's amazing. And talking about the personal side, so you work, you build your corporate career, you write books, you build your personal brand on LinkedIn and go to networking events. How do you do all of it? How do you organize your life to actually to meet all your commitments and to be productive and to feel good? I mean, physically, not to feel overwhelmed with all of that. Yeah, tired all the time. How do you do it?
The good thing is I like all of these things, and I see that's quite interconnected. Particular networking events are quite helpful where the right people are hanging out, but otherwise it's not always so easy to get hold of. So that is something that makes sense, and I feel the energy from that. So that really is contributing to this energy level. Um, and I don't see that something like LinkedIn comes on top of work. That is something that is an extra that I have to do, like many corporate salespeople see it, unfortunately, instead of sharing by themselves. And so therefore, I put it maybe as one of my habits to enjoy and do this without thinking, why do I have to?
Mhm.
Open bracket, book idea 2026, happy habits,
Yeah.
closing brackets.
Great idea,
Yeah.
yeah, because it's really important, I think, and maybe you can give some tips for some other professionals uh, who actually would like to build their personal brands, to build their network, but they are working full time, and actually they feel that it's kind of impossible for them.
Um, a bit of a secret here, maybe two. There's one advantage of not having young kids at home. So that gets me a little bit more time to concentrate on something like writing posts. And the other thing is, I decided not to drive. So I commute by public transport. So when I have 15 minutes sitting on the ferry or on the bus, I can work on personal brand. I can even compose a post in 15 minutes. So that's possible because I got into this routine level. So that of course is something that's working. What you should not do when you're driving by car and sit in front of the screen, you see all of the other cars, and of course you do not take your smartphone in your hands. Obviously not. But these are the things
Impossible
that
in
help me
Texas.
when I have some spike.
Sorry,
Hmm?
sorry, I interrupted you. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, so then when I find some time, then it's good to research, and I try to not to become the slave of the feed, because that's a tricky thing in our society actually. When more people maybe 10, 20 years ago would just sit on their couch and zap through all of the programs, like today, they would scroll kilometers and kilometers on their social media feeds. And depending on what they like, they get more of that, and that can be addictive. That's not necessarily good. So I try to match this admitting addicting part of it with productivity.
Great. Yeah, I was saying that it's impossible in Texas to just to use public transport and be productive at that time. So you can only drive, and you don't have any other options. But yeah, I used to do it when I lived in Moscow, for example. Yeah, in metro you
Me,
can be productive. Yeah. So
me
this is a
too.
great tip.
I built a team in Russia back in the days, and I traveled only by metro whatever I can because I wanted to see day to day life of people instead of being escorted in a limousine.
Yeah, great. So yeah, thank you for the tips. I think they can really help to become more productive to some other people. And if you usually combine, for example, your corporate career and some like personal branding activities, your books and consulting, and usually when people do it or they dream about it, they are afraid of how their companies will, I don't know, look at it, what they are gonna think about it, and actually, how does your company ActiveCampaign feel about your personal branding activities and, in general, personal branding efforts among their employees? Do they support it or the opposite? Yeah.
So I'm very happy that actually everyone at Active Campaign is indeed supportive of personal branding, and also to take this learning and understanding way of how to gain influence on social media, on other channels, because it's all about digital marketing. You want to attract an audience, you want to also learn how that works, and that's good in helping on the day-to-day role. So I see a range of my colleagues at Active Campaign regularly collaborating on how to boost their personal brand on LinkedIn. They test out the contents, they grab information from the audience, and that only works if we act as humans so that we can crowdsource ideas and figure out what actually works. So, for example, one of them who I mentioned before, Casey Hill, he started a podcast from Active Campaign, inviting leaders from the software as a service space. And of course, that is something that he shares about how that works. And we all encourage that we take it from as most human way, connected with the values as possible. But not
Yeah.
every company thinks in this way. So we see the fact that there are, or I remember a time 6 years ago, I interviewed at Apple, for example, and they said in the last round of last fall, they said, we realized you have a personal brand on LinkedIn. And I thought it's a compliment. I said, yes. I said, not good. An Apple employee doesn't have that. We have a valuable company brand. And I
Wow.
acknowledged that company brand, obviously. And I realized, yeah,
Mhm.
that's true. I never found anyone from Apple back in the days to do that. So
Mhm.
as a result, I bought a MacBook and I created my personal brand on the Mac in that sense for me, but unfortunately not
Mhm.
as an employee back then. But indeed, I'm very happy that personal brand plays an important role. That we can also help this together and talk about our culture. Obviously, one thing we need to
Mhm.
have in mind as well when we are saying something that's not general speaking,
Mhm.
and people can see that we are an employee of whatever organization, it always feels a bit like a public endorsement that the company would support the statement that an employee makes on LinkedIn. Or not only that, but also Facebook,
Mhm.
Instagram, and so on. But LinkedIn is more from a professional. So we need to ensure that when we write on social media, that this well sticks not only to a social media policy, but also that it feels well and sits well. So
Mhm.
that's an important topic as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of risks in it, yeah, but at the same time, a lot of benefits for companies.
A lot of opportunities because it attracts also talent. It
Mhm.
it helps in so many ways, and that's what I learned at Hootsuite as well. So there was quite a bit of freedom in a way how we can demonstrate that social media actually works because it is
Mhm.
social media management software. And at ActiveCampaign, working about digital marketing, email automation, we can share practical things that the audience see.
Mhm.
Ah, that's how it works. It's not necessarily to pitch the software, but to better all of us in that sense. And that is something where you can also be perceived as the subject matter expert. And for
Mhm.
me, it also is important that it gets matched well with the culture. So that the own values that we have and the brand that is compatible. So that comes, of
Mhm.
course, in the hiring process. But if somebody is working long time for a company and then realize, oh, they would like to share something from it that is compatible with the employer. So think about the different type of values which are there. And if I can just only talk about the values that we have at Active Campaign, it fits so
Mhm.
nicely in adopting and using a personal brand. Think about one of these values that we have is create a wow moment for our customers and for our partners. And that I can do by sharing what's working quite well, making the customer or the partner the hero. That means I can share a story how someone increased their business, their reach, whatever, by utilizing our technology. It's not to show the features of the software, but how it helps someone else. And it's also important to start with the trust. It's one of the values that we have as well. Trust comes in between people. That fits again into the way how I talk about my 42 coffees meetings. Or we say
Mhm.
we need to grow with gratitude and cultivate the inclusion. So that also is the way how we interact with people from a diversity, inclusion, equity point of view. And where's a better place than talking about these values than on social media? So then
Yeah.
we try to iterate everything wisely, step by step, and show the learning process. And that's where I'm strongly convinced it fits so well together.
Yeah, and actually, I think that when companies hire people who share the company's value, they have the same or similar values. Yeah, it's just it feels it's very natural when they share something like that because they share their personality and at the same time, yeah, company's values as well. Uh, so let's maybe talk about your personal interests because you also have very, I think, interesting and unusual probably interests like heritage, architecture, some cultural activities. Yeah, and actually, how do these hobbies and interests contribute to your personal brand? Do you show them somehow, and how do you include them?
Yeah, you're right. So I have a passion for historic and heritage architecture, which is funny because when I've been a tour guide in London, I admired the building of the Docklands area, which is more industrial and new, so to say. But as soon as I went to Prague, I felt a bit like reborn that the cultural heritage that we have as mankind needs to be preserved instead of destroyed with something new. And today we would see everything that's old, we need to preserved. But if you see in between the different type of architecture types, when Baroque came, old was maybe Renaissance or Gothic, but then when Art Nouveau came, then Baroque was old. When today we have the brutalism type of buildings 50 years ago that look so ugly, but at the end, compared to today, that looks old. And is it something to protect? Questionable. So we need to see this more in the how life goes also in circles and in stages, and often it comes back to similar places. So when I came to Sydney, I saw there's also a range of historical buildings, and I figured out that one of them for networking events is the Castlereagh Boutique Hotel, where I went then frequently and became a member of the club that owns the hotel, and now I'm a board director. And I think it's great to be involved, and that's maybe my engineering background to figure out how does something actually work. So you go in a hotel, you realize, oh, the aircon doesn't work. But yeah, do we know that with the let's say global impact of the supply chain, it takes long to get all these type of products into the country. So then the processes behind they take quite a bit, and that's interesting when you can influence it, especially there from a board point of view. It helps on a sales career, because who do we believe normally we are selling to? To the C level, below the top management, team leaders, staff members, casual. That's a normal pyramid that we have. But on top of the CEO is the board level. Basically, all this type of governance approach which is completely different. So that had quite a lot in the way how I'm also mentoring sales reps to be ready for that. And that's an interesting part of it. And for me, what worked well from the historical hotels is also we used to travel. So I do not want to necessarily state and count the numbers of countries, but it helps to learn about other cultures and put ourselves more into context, instead of believing how we do it here. It's the only way how it should be done. So in that sense, Australia is my country number 5 to live in, with Germany, Switzerland, Czech Republic, New Zealand, and here. So, and you're a foreigner everywhere except at the one place where you are. So therefore, it's always nice to learn from that, and that fits for me into the ongoing process, even networking. So, for example, when I'm going in another country, of course, I go to networking events as well. When I went to Chicago, I went to club meetings over there. I go to Perth in 2 weeks. I go to BNI networking event. So I want to learn about it. And that is how it fits all together on the professional journey. And whenever I travel, I like to choose hotels by myself. Maybe that's something to learn from, because one day I turned back into writing a book about hotels, which I call Charm and Character, Historic Hotels for Your Bucket List.
Wow, yeah, looking forward to it. And actually, yeah, I think traveling is just eye-opening experience that you just can find some interesting insights and look how everything works in a different country. Yeah, it's very useful to look from a different perspective. Great, thank you so much. And actually, we are going to the end of our interview, and I want to ask you about maybe you can give some advice or recommendation to someone who is just starting building their personal brands, especially if they work somewhere, if they are very, very busy, what to do, how they can start.
There's one thing when you want to get started to show something, to build a personal brand, there's one thing we should stop doing first before we get started. The first thing we need to stop, and that was a bit difficult for me as a Swiss, because you think about perfection, everything need to really go well. Forget about that. Life is not perfect. Just show the natural person who you are. That's the mindset of sharing something. If you get started on a personal brand, so the journey that I described, which in my books, which also covers the journey along some Lego bricks that I built, because I won my first Lego contest at the age of 6, and was the last one that I ever been part of, unfortunately. But I put it into Lego bricks. They go, can you see it on the page? They go from the first brick from basically you need to complete your own profile. The second one to connect with people. Third one to work on content. The fourth one to convert. So some people do the mistake that they think about, I need to put content out, but their profile lacks, is this below. So you need to first go at least on average on what the profile today looks like to show who they are, maybe a little bit better, and then find people that they maybe already know anyway, but they're not connected with, and only
Yeah.
then would start with content. But tricky thing with content, people don't feel how they can share it in a way that it also attracts others. And my tip here is start with commenting. Read from some people who you follow for whatever reason or connect with, who are sharing content, and then you can add your perspective to this. And that way, people think, oh, interesting. That person maybe has something to say. And below every comment, you see the first about 60 characters from your headline. If the headline sits well and you share a good thought to someone else's post, that's helpful. And that you can get eyes to your overall profile. And then you can start to maybe create posts from someone else and share this with your network as long you add why and what's your take from it. And then you start to create your own content. So that's the way how I would start. Have the profile ready, figure out who actually you would like to have in your network if you don't have yet, but then start with commenting and therefore finding your voice. I'm not native English speaking, so my grammar might not be good enough, but in the meantime, I developed this type of habit of commenting quickly.
Great. So some small steps and just facing the imperfection of your content, of everything. Yeah, just accept it. Yeah, it's never perfect. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So what's next for you? Maybe any new project goals you're excited about?
Well, professionally, I'm very happy that I started at ActiveCampaign in April. So looking after partners in the Asia Pacific region. So that, of course, that is my main, not only what I'm doing during the day, but I'm strongly convinced that the combination of social media and digital marketing, email automation, newsletters, that together can help to reach a target audience. And I'm grateful to contribute to this one. From a book writing point of view, I gave a couple of hints already what's there, but I'm writing the book called Celebrate Your Network, where I talk about this topic called glue. Give, listen, unite, and enhance. And let's see how that journey goes. Um, could be published this year. My possibly last ever travel book will come out in end of this month, which is a travel book about Switzerland with 300 pages. Sounds a lot. Took a while. That finally sees its light as well. Yeah.
Great. Looking forward to your new books, and these actually plans are just sound amazing. Yeah. So thank you everyone for listening us, and it was the that's all actually for this edition for our podcasts, like personal branding for business, and thank you so much, Gunnar, for sharing your valuable insights and your story about networking, writing books, building your personal brand, and being effective and productive in all of this. And at the end, I think that we can say that genuine connections and highlighting others can be powerful tools for growing your personal brand. And just everyone keep networking and sharing your stories, just using some small steps. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. I,
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation and well summarized.